Hello and welcome to the Sunday Preview Rundown. And this week we have elves.
Elves and some old made-to-order terrain.
Yeah, and we got a little bit of made-to-order terrain. I'm not as enthused about that. You are a terrain enthusiast.
Well, we'll get there.
We'll get there. But yeah, we got the High Elves release for Old World. First and foremost, the not required, highly recommended Arcane Journal for their new units, or like their named characters or whatnot. Basically, but not basically, their codex.
Yep.
Easy peasy. And then the battalion, which has actually, even for the battalion, quite a few models in it.
Yeah, 32 total spearmen, 32 total archers. Basically, make units of 16 each. I always forgot the High Elves. This is part of the reason they were dropped from Age of Sigmar early. The High Elf units are always in weird sizes.
Yeah, like Dryads still come in 16s or 32s or whatever, it's always odd to me, but...
It was partially how they balanced it. Instead of big blocks of 20, elves don't get big blocks of 20. They get blocks of 16 because they're rarer and,
Yeah, I thought the whole point of the High Elves is they're supposed to be, like, highly elite and they're really expensive, but then there's so many models in this box.
There are, but, these are the basic elves, archers, and spearmen.
That's true.
So you get 32 of each of those, and then 2 chariots that you can either build as the Tyranrock chariots, which are your ranged ones, or the Lion chariots of Trace, which are your more melee chariots.
Surprise, surprise. The one with claws punches.
Yes. And, of course, a new transfer seat, which we get to see here.
I actually don't mind this transfer sheet. I mean, it's got a lot of High Elf, like, very specific stuff on it, but, like, the sword going through the book looks cool, and the like, dragon side, and I like this. The dice are easy to read. Silver and blue is pretty good color combo, so...
Yeah. Very classic High Elf. So, all right, then we get a couple of new models. You get the Lord of Trace and the Ishaeves Sentinel of the Silent Isle. So these are both Forge World, but, New Forge World isn't nearly as bad as it was.
Price-wise or quality-wise.
Yeah, and we've talked before. We've seen both these models because they're both pretty nice looking. And then the returning models.
Yeah, I was going to have to ask you, is this a returning model? Because the High Elf on Dragon looks really good.
The High Elf on Dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's returning plastic kit, even says it here. Yeah, it was a later Warhammer Fantasy kit, and it looks pretty good.
Along the lines of, like, the Doom Bell and the that kind of thing. Yeah. This looks, holds up. You're correct.
Yeah, so this is the dragon. Basically, you can either build it as a Lord on Dragon, a Mage on Dragon, or an Archmage on Dragon. Basically, all your elves riding dragons needs.
Yeah, I like the fantasy classic, like, wyvern type. Very skinny dragons. When done well.
Oh, it's not a wyvern because it has front legs.
I know, but it's very like skinny and flowy rather than the current like Sigmar dragons that are all like chunky.
Yeah. It was kind of a limitation of the technology, but they made it work really well.
Yeah.
And they gave these guys a new paint job to make them
that
look
probably
better.
Helps.
That did help. I mean, it does. It also just shows a lot about how much of the derpiness of those old models was old paint jobs, which just simply weren't as good as they are now because we have the internet. Either way, great looking new model. My understanding is that the High Elf Mage on Dragon is one of the current terrors of the edition.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things to beat. So, great, now everyone has one. Yay!
Yay.
Then you could also downsize to Illyrian Reavers, who are kind of the skirmish cavalry.
The cavalry with bows is always interesting because I can't shoot a bow standing still. Well, these are elves, so...
This is this is technically an old kit, but it's basically a new kit, because it was only available in the Isle of Blood box, so it never got a full release, and they've also taken it and redone it completely.
Yeah. Why didn't they do this for the Skaven that was in that box, instead of just redoing all the sculpts?
I mean, they basically did.
Well, but they didn't literally take out of the box.
No, because those Rat Ogres, they did look better, but they don't look as good as the new Rat Ogres.
No, they're not even close.
Also, they wanted to make them in 3s instead of 2s, I guess.
True.
And most of the other things from that box were completely removed, so that's probably why.
Fair enough.
Your Swordmasters of Hoeth are just a returning plastic kit. Again, based on Isle of Blood, so they hold up fairly well, but they're a little classic.
Yep, definitely classic with the Eldari heads.
Yep, big pointy helmets. And then the White Lions of Trace, who are fairly dynamic for old hammer miniatures.
Yeah, definitely.
And finally, for the plastics, the Eagle Claw throwers, your artillery.
These, I think, are probably showing their age the most out of all of these. They're a little
simplistic.
They are.
But all of these are hold up fairly well.
They're okay. We've definitely seen worse from the old world.
My understanding is the elves were one of the last range refreshes before Oldhammer died.
Gotcha.
So a lot of their older plastic kits are newer than some of the things like dwarves had.
Okay.
And then returning medals, you've got basically a named White Lions of Trace guy, Coral Lion Mane, and Handmaiden of the Everqueen. Both of these are metal, which you can tell by her spear, which is, as big around as her little thigh.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they hold up pretty well.
They do. They look pretty good. I mean, and you're right. It's probably the paint job. The paint job looks great on both these.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it.
And then a metal eagle, which,
Ooh,
boy,
why you gotta be metal?
It actually looks pretty good, just except for the light stand. But, boy, that's probably heavy enough to hurt someone with.
It looks fine. It looks like one of the balancing eagles that you balance on their nose, but made of metal, so it's not going to balance anywhere.
Absolutely not. And then finally, this one I didn't know about. I was not even familiar with.
This is my favorite model in the range. This thing is gorgeous.
This is the Mareworm. This is Forge World resin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was not even familiar that this model ever existed, to be honest. So,
yeah, this would be a great conversion, or it counts as for I almost said Lumineth. The other one, Idneth. Because man, this thing just looks so mean. I had to, when they first announced this thing, I had to double check that it was returning. But man, shows you what they were doing with Forge World even back then.
Yeah, I mean that's what Forge World was, is pushing the envelope of technology that you can't do with some plastics or metals.
They could get away with this plastic nowadays, but it
yeah,
looks
but
so good.
It does. Great looking model. And then briefly to the 41st Millennium with some made-to-order terrain again.
Again.
This is like the third time these terrain pieces have been available on made-to-order.
Really?
Yeah, so you've got the Imperial Bastion, which I ordered last time it came out on made-to-order. And then the Wall of Martyrs, and I believe this is the second time it's come up made-to-order. And I believe last time I passed because, the Wall of Martyrs is unfortunately really bad gameplay terrain.
Yeah.
For 40k and for lots of things, honestly. You can't actually hide behind it, and 40k doesn't really care if you're in cover but obscured.
Yeah.
That just means you die.
Yeah, I don't like the trenches, quote-unquote trenches, that, like, come up out of the ground. It just looks always so awkward to me.
It's the best you can do when you're, like,
Yeah, unless you have, like, a foam board that you're digging into.
Right. It looks good. It's just very bad gameplay-wise for current and every edition of 40k. And the last time I also believe I skipped it because I believe the made-to-order bunkers, or the Martyrs defense line was really expensive for what it is.
I fully believe that. Their terrain can be up there.
Right. So obviously, this is all plastic.
Mm-hmm.
It will be available from Saturday the 15th until Sunday the 23rd, so about a week.
That's a surprisingly short amount of time.
And they'll ship it when they bloody well please.
Yes, they will.
As we've learned from many made-to-orders.
180 working days. Which
Yeah.
is, I think up to 6 months.
No. 180 days is 6 months. This is 180 working days, which is more like 9 months.
Oh my god, why?
We learned that the hard way when we once dared email them and ask, and they were like, it's 180 working days. Stop emailing. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was not a kind email from that customer service folk. But either way, if you want some of this old terrain, the Bastion is, kind of a classic. You see it a lot in Space Marine 2. So
that is definitely the
like
coolest one, in my opinion.
And if nothing else, it's a big hunk of line of sight blocking terrain, which is always handy.
Yep.
And the Martyr wall, I'm sure it's here because it's the great way to make a centerpiece diorama for your Krieg.
Yeah, fair.
And otherwise, I would skip it.
Yep. All of this is definitely very Kriegian, huh?
Yeah. That's it for this Sunday. So, obviously, if you're an elf player, you're excited. I have my eye on the dragon. We'll see how much it is.
Yep. The dragon looks good. The worm looks good. Because it's big in Forge World, it's probably going to be way too expensive. But yeah, that dragon looks great.
Yeah, that mare worm is going to be ludicrous, I'm calling it. Unless it's not as big as I thought it was. Which is possible, because it doesn't say how big it is, and I literally never knew this kit existed. So
They showed it in a article a few days ago, and I think it's on a chariot base. So I think it's like 50 by 100 base.
So not centerpiece size.
It was for back then.
Sure, but not for now,
Yeah.
So hey, maybe it won't be so bad. Anyway, that's it for us this Sunday. We'll keep you posted with any more GW releases and news, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye bye.